Hi, guys, and welcome back. So, we are on the podcast. We're going to be doing a YouTube as well. We have on the show today Jonathan O Toole. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be on the show.
Awesome. And Jonathan, tell us a little bit about you.
So I just turned 27 years old. I live in Orlando, Florida. I've been with my company for the last 5 years, Tom James. So I work for the world's largest custom clothing company. Went to UCF, got a 4-year degree from there, graduated in 2016 with an accounting degree. And yeah, now I'm here.
And how did we meet?
Yeah, so man, it's always great to figure out like how it all ties back. But so one of my partners in the Indianapolis office, he was in contact with your husband. He wanted to be his tailor when Mark was up there, and he ended up moving down here, and my partner gave me his contact info, and I was just following up with Mark, following up with him, and he eventually tried me out on something. So he did his first outfit with me. I think it was in December, and I delivered it a few months ago. And then went on delivery of delivering it to him. I met you, and we just got to talking about how you were about to start your podcast, and how you've worked with Andy Frisella with First Form before and all that kind of stuff. So we all kind of just hit it off.
We totally like just clicked. And I remember you came over and I looked like a hot mess. I had on fuzzy slippers and I was like, this guy's into fashion. You guys can see on the YouTube, he has like the mannequin behind him, all perfectly styled. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna think I'm such a hot mess. But we totally hit it off. I was so impressed by like your personal development and all that stuff that you do. So kind of talk about that. Like, how'd you get into the industry you're in right now? Like, how did it find you? Did you find it?
Yeah, so this is always a funny story. So I mean, for the longest time, I wanted to get my accounting degree. I wanted to open up my own CPA firm, and I worked for Lockheed Martin for a year and 8 months as an intern. And then my friend was the staff accountant at the CPA firm. He was like, "Why don't you come check out the tax side of things since you were doing audit at Lockheed?" So I went and checked that out. Became a staff accountant at their firm in December of 2015. And I worked through tax season, and then they ended up having a little bit of a budget cut. So I ended up getting laid off from the CPA firm. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because I just was not happy sitting behind a computer all day. I was just like, I was getting migraines. Yeah, it was bad. I was getting migraines. My eyes were twitching, and I was just like, man, I can't do this the rest of my life. I was like, it was killing me. And so my friend was interning with Tom James, and he talked very highly about it. And I was like, man, I want to come check out the opportunity. So I got laid off on Monday. By Tuesday, I had a ride along day set up for Wednesday. Came in for a ride day with the office leader of Orlando, and the rest is history. Kind of got offered the job that day, and I've been here unofficially since March of 2016, but started officially June 1st of 2016.
Wow. That's kind of crazy going from working in taxes, like CPA numbers, like all the stuff that most people normally don't like to do, to having like a fun job where you get to travel quite a bit, right? Like you're driving everywhere, meeting new people, like meeting their dogs, like you're all over the place. Like that's really cool. So was it like a big transition? Was it like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was honestly a pretty big transition for me. So believe it or not, I'm a natural introvert. I grew up just playing sports, but just like kind of being the person that was just a little bit more quiet than everyone else. I grew up smaller than everyone. I was 4'10", 85 pounds going into high school, hit a big growth spurt in high school. So I was just like really shy, introverted. And then even when freshman year of college, I, as a business major, supposed to take public speaking. I skipped taking public speaking because I was so scared to get in front of people in classes. And I took communication 101, where it was just like a writing course. And so I decided to kind of forego that. And yeah, I mean, just sales, like I just had a bad stigma about sales for the longest time. And I think a lot of people do before they get into it. But at the end of the day, I really wanted to get in sales because of the relationships you get to build with people, the trust that you get to build, and yeah, just how much that you can really grow your network over time and that you can serve people. So that's what really attracted me about the opportunity, besides some of the net worth building opportunity here at Tom James. But it was a huge transition for me. I didn't knew nothing about clothing. I knew nothing about sales. So Tom James really invests a lot in us as sales professionals. They invest about $50,000 in their sales professionals up front when we initially hire people. So when we hire someone, we want them to do really well, and we invest a lot in them.
And I mean, it's just like a perfect fit for you. Like, I feel like you were like made to do this. Like, as soon as I met you, I was like, he's just so good at what he does. And like, you sold my husband the famous Clueless jacket. And now I bought something that looks similar. So we can be like the Clueless couple together. It would be so awesome. I'm so excited. But so that's like really interesting. I wouldn't picture you as someone who was shy or introverted. Like, you just have this like really good energy about you, like this really upbeat, like positive, like you just radiate that like confidence. So like, was that something that you had to learn over time, or was that something that you kind of grew into, or like how did that transition work? Because like you have that spark, you know?
Yeah, I mean, along with like me being naturally introverted, I'm a natural negative person. I mean, I think that's just the natural tendency, honestly, for anyone, is just that to have those negative thoughts. It's just kind of human nature at the end of the day. So I started doing some self-development stuff in college a little bit. And it was really because I shared this with you, and I don't mind sharing it right now, but I've gone through a lot of mental health stuff. And so I really got diagnosed early on with bipolar depression and some anxiety as well. And from like 18 on, it's kind of been a battle. And so I really knew that I had to not just like go to the counseling or the psychiatrist and stuff like that. I had to really go to work on my mind, because I just didn't come from the best environment at the times. Financially wasn't there, just around all of this negative stuff. And I could have really gone down the wrong path. And yeah, I was just very grateful and very, very blessed that I didn't, but I had to really work on a lot of that stuff. And when I came to Tom James, our mission statement is we build people and people build the company. And that's something that really, really attracted me to Tom James, because I'm like, they're all about building people. It's like, I've literally grown up here at Tom James. I was a 22-year-old immature kid when I came to this company. And even though I thought I had it all together, I definitely didn't. The ego was big. I've lowered my ego. I've become very, very humble. And I think humility is huge on that stuff, but really had to go to work on a lot of this stuff. It hasn't come easy at all.
Wow. I actually, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, by the way. And I was just on Instagram before this interview, and one of my girlfriends was writing about all the stuff she's dealing with. And I feel like everyone deals with their own like internal battles. Like, we all have our own, stuff that's going on. What are some of your favorite ways to deal with like depression and anxiety and things like do you have any coping things that you turn to, or any like techniques that you use at all? Like, I know I have my own anxiety and I deal with it in my own way, but I'm curious about what you do.
Yeah, certainly. So the first thing is, honestly, I start my day on like a really, really positive note. So I was always a night owl, especially in college. I probably pulled like 60 or 70 all-nighters. It was crazy. I was like staying up all the time. And it was hard for me to get up in the morning. But when I came to Tom James, I mean, we had to be here by 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
So I had to really adjust. And yeah. And so, and they're long days, 12 to 14-hour days sometimes. And so something that I created at the beginning of my Tom James career, and I've kind of established and recreated over time, is my morning routine. So that's something that's really, really big for me. And I could definitely walk through that if you want me to walk through that. But that's something that really just like fills my cup up to start the day. Because if you've ever heard, you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's like, I just like, it's literally literal and like physics, like, and speaking that way, where you can just fill your cup up. So I'm pouring in people so much throughout the day that like when I start my day, I need to pour that or fill that cup up. So that's the biggest thing for me.
You know what's crazy that we're talking about this, because I recently had COVID, and it was like a month long of COVID, but I was so bored and so depressed during that time that I was like, I realized I was not filling my own cup up. Like I literally was just draining, draining, draining. And I was like, you know what I need to do? I need to create a nighttime routine. So now I haven't mastered the morning. I'm taking it baby steps, but I created a nighttime routine now to just feel better. And it's literally done wonders for me. So I would love to hear about like your morning routine and give us like some ideas for the morning.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna start getting back into it. So this is the one thing I'm not in right now with my morning routine is the gym, which I'm getting back into. I started getting back into it this weekend, but I had a couple injuries I had to sit out. So back in it now, but I'm gonna start adding it back in. So my morning routine without the gym is I wake up at 5:30 every single morning. I go to the bathroom. I splash cold water in my face because I don't know if you've ever heard, but like it really stimulates the body whenever you go into like a cold bath or cold water or whatever it is. Like Tony Robbins jumps in a cold pool to start his day.
Yeah, there's crazy ass people who jump into ice pools, like ice
Yeah.
baths. So yeah.
Yeah. So like
Totally.
I'm not like that intense with it, but I'll sit there for 10, 15 seconds and just splash cold water in my face. And then I make my bed and then I do 50 push-ups every single morning when I wake up. It's just like natural for me now after I do all that. And it's just to kind of get the blood flowing. I just really want to wake up because I was never a morning person. So I just really have to get myself going. And some mornings I'm still like that. And then I have a puppy at home. So after that, I take him on his walk and for about 10, 15 minutes, come back in, feed him, and then make coffee for my girlfriend and I. So by the time she wakes up, I usually have the coffee made for her. And then it kind of gets to the deep like thinking on things. So then I do a devotional for 5 to 10 minutes every single morning with prayer time because my faith is really big. It wasn't always big for me, but it has been. And honestly, it's just really something that saved my life, especially with the mental health stuff. And then after that, I do a gratitude and goals list. So I write 10 different things that I'm grateful for every single morning. And then right now I'm writing 14 goals down. I have a long list of goals, honestly, but I do my top 14 goals that I'm really focused on right then. And then I get ready for the day. So then I have the same routine of getting ready, take the shower, get out, do all that kind of stuff, and then take my dog out for another walk, then make a protein shake after that, and then have a ginger shot usually, and then I'm on my way to the office. So
A ginger shot.
ginger shots.
Okay, like what's up with this ginger shot? Tell us a little bit about this ginger shot because that's like some spicy shit, in the morning. Tell
Yeah.
us about that.
So that's something that one of my leaders here at Tom James, one of my first ride days that I did with him, we went to a juice bar and he gave me a ginger shot and it was like really, really strong. But I was like, I like the way this makes me feel. I was like, this really like kicks me into gear. So every morning I have like some kind of ginger shot or a grass wheat shot or a turmeric shot, something like that. Usually it's ginger shot, but if I don't have those, I still go with the other ones.
Yeah, it like vibes you up. It's a whole thing. Like when I lived in California, we used to do that all the time. We'd drive to Jamba Juice because we had one there and we do like the wheatgrass shots or the turmeric shots. Like it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like healthy and vibrant. I don't know. It just definitely works wonders, I guess.
For sure. Yeah.
It's
And it
like
helps my stomach too.
oh
I
yeah.
mean, a lot of the ginger shots are for digestive purposes. So it really like helps my stomach like ease out to be able to start the day on the right note. Cause I used to get really sick in the morning and just like be very anxious. And it really just calms my stomach down in the morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you like for food, are you very conscious about like what you eat? It sounds like you're very like you have a pretty dialed in food regimen. Got the coffee, the turmeric, the ginger. What about like your food? Do you have like a food routine?
Yeah. So I was vegan for about 3 years. So until July of last year, I was vegan. And my girlfriend, when I became vegan, she went pescatarian. So she was pescatarian for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I just honestly missed fish and like sushi and stuff so much. And I was like, all right, I'll try this back out again. So I ended up easing into it and I went back pescatarian. So I've been pescatarian for almost a year now. But I eat plant-based probably still 3 to 4 times a week at least. I still think eating plant-based, it just gives me a lot of energy. And then having the protein from the fish, it just like keeps me moving. But yeah, every week my girlfriend and I, we plan out our meals for the week. We like cooking, so we plan out our meals Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday are just kind of like date days. So Monday through Friday we're cooking meals at our house, and everything from shrimp tacos to tofu to I mean, you name it, we kind of make it. We have some fun with it. So go on Pinterest and just other things and just come up with some meals.
I have to ask you this because my husband, who you know, is very sensitive to the smell of fish. And recently I cooked some, what was it? It was a grouper or something like that in the house. And he still walks in and he's like, it stinks in here. It smells so bad. So like, do you cook fish in the house or do you kind of just do sushi or like, what's your whole, because I love fish. It's so lean. It's such a good form of protein. But like, what's your take on that? Because he's like, you know what, get your little George Foreman and go outside and do it outside. Like he's banning me from the fish duties in the house. He's like, never again. I don't know why it smells so bad in here. And I'm like, I know it lingers like for days and days. So do you have any like, do you cook fish in the house? Do you not cook fish in the house? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, we usually do cook fish in the house, but we'll put the fans on, we'll light some candles, and then we'll just open the doors so that it doesn't smell as bad. But if you cook fish in the house, you're definitely gonna have that smell in there most of the time. There's gonna be some kind of smell with it that comes.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like the ultimate fish that doesn't smell as bad. Like I feel like tilapia is a little, but it's such a dirty fish that it's like you don't really want to eat that all the time. I
Yeah,
think it tastes good. I'm weird, I guess, but I put like so much seasoning on it you can't really taste it. Do you have any favorite fish that you like to cook?
yeah. I mean, my go-to is always salmon. I probably have salmon 3 times a week at least. It's just my go-to. Like I crave salmon all the time.
It's
So
so good for
yeah,
your
that's
brain too. Like it's like it has so many omegas in there, so it's good for like joints, brain health, all that.
yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely my go-to with sushi or cooking at home. It's my go-to fish.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Like, let's talk about passion and how you kind of like, I want to hear more about like ambition, like how you keep that drive because you're obviously successful for 27. You've, lived a lot within your years. Like, where does that ambition come from? Like, how do you stay motivated? Like, where do you draw on from that energy source?
Yeah. So just from honestly where I come from like very, very humble beginnings. And there's a few things. I mean, one, when I came to Tom James, they talk really a lot about vision and goals and determining like figuring out your why behind things, because the why is the most important. You can always figure out the how if the why is there at the end of the day. So my why or my vision, my purpose is just to recreate my family legacy by having a positive influence on all my family and friends, and by being a man of God at the end of the day. So that's just something that I really focus on. And I mean, my dad's 65 years old and he's still working 70 hours a week at 65. And so for me, it's just like I just my mindset is like I'm gonna keep grinding and keep working as hard as I can to get my dad into retirement. And so
You do. What is
um so he works at Publix. He's a liquor store specialist. So he runs the Publix liquor store in Plant City. And then he also drives Uber on the side, like Uber Eats and Uber and stuff like that. So he works about 40, 50 hours a week at Publix and about 20, 25 hours for Uber.
wow, that's a
Um,
lot.
Yeah. So I've really learned my work ethic from my dad. That's like my dad really taught me my work ethic and the value of a dollar. So like those are just like really two values or principles that I really learned from him. And I just see it as like if he's working that hard, like I'm 27 years old, there's no reason I can't work this hard or even harder. Because if he's out there doing this, like there's no reason that he shouldn't be retired in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
And
he's like
I'm gonna have
90.
something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, like that's, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So you definitely have that like work ethic in place. So then like the mindset stuff that and motivation, the ambition, obviously you see your dad working really hard. So that's part of it. is there anything else that like drives you? Like, do you have any like big lofty goals? Like, do you want to travel? Do you want to like move somewhere exotic? Like, what's your kind of like, what's the inner workings of Jonathan O Toole?
Yeah, I mean, where do I start? So one of the biggest goals, honestly, that I've been writing down for crazy, like probably 3, 4 years now, is be a millionaire by 30 years old. Just where I come from, it's
A
not really.
millionaire or billionaire?
So millionaire by 30
Okay.
with an M, and then billionaire by 60.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So people look at me crazy sometimes when I say it, but honestly, it's not because of the money. I really just want to be, it's what you can do with the money at the end of the day. I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to give back to the community. I want to be able to give back to UCF, my high school, my community, the people around me, different foundations. I have a list of foundations I already want to get back to this year, and I have them all broken down of how much I want to give to them. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to really get back, and I know I want to have generational wealth for my family. My family hasn't really come from much. It's been very difficult financially for a lot of my family. So I want to have that generational wealth so that my kids and my great grandkids and my great grandkids, they don't have to worry about that down the road. I still want them to get out there and work and have that work ethic that I've really had. But at the end of the day, I don't want them to have to worry about how they're going to get around if they don't have a car like I did, because I didn't get my first car till I was 21. I don't want them to worry about what colleges I'm going to, or if I can get into this school, or if I can afford it. I want them to be able to have any opportunity that they can have at the end of the day. So that's probably the biggest one for me. And I mean, I want to have places all around the world. I want to have a cabin in North Carolina. I want a lodge in Colorado. I want a beach house in New Smyrna, and then build a lake house somewhere here in Orlando, probably somewhere in Winter Park or somewhere in Windermere. I mean, those are the two places that I'm looking at for the dream house.
That's badass. Well, you know, you have a real estate friend now.
Yeah.
But seriously, that's so cool. Like, that's amazing that, you know, what you said about money, you're like, it's not about the money, it's about what money can buy, really struck me, because it's never about like, the why is never about like what, like how much money you have. Like, money's just money, it's just a tool. But it's like, what can you do with that? And you and I grew up very similarly. Like, I came from pretty much not like nothing, you know, but in that I learned work ethic, and that was something that was like instilled in me deep within me from a young age. But it's like I went through a lot of the same struggles, and it definitely caused a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of things that I didn't get to accomplish because of money, or, you know, having to work 3 jobs to support myself, so I didn't have time to do that. So did you have any habits you had to unlearn? Like, I know for myself, I had a lot of like limiting beliefs I had to like bust through in order to get to where you are today. Like, was there anything that was like very like completely life changing when you flipped it around or thought differently about it?
So I mean, I honestly, I had a lot of negative self-talk for the longest time, especially coming in Tom James. Those self-limiting beliefs, I mean, those were really big for me. I just thought I couldn't make it because of my mental health. I lost a lot of relationships because of the things I went through with things. So it just like, I felt like no one liked me, honestly. And that's hard to come into when you're going into a sales job, especially when you're in the relationship business. Like, I just felt like I was on an island almost, that no one cared. I was by myself. And I felt like that for a number of years, even though there were people around me that cared so much and were pouring into me. I just really didn't see it. I mean, the student appears when the student appears when the teacher comes around. So it's like, I just really wanted to just change that stuff around. So I do character traits 3 times a day. So it's like my affirmations. So I have 12 character traits that I read through 3 times a day, once in the morning, one in the afternoon, and once at night. So just to remind myself of the person that I am becoming in the process and the person that I can be, because sometimes I get in my own head, or maybe I get off of a bad sales call or out of an appointment, and I'm just in my own head and I feel like no one likes me, and I just have to remind myself of who I am and where I'm working for. So affirmations and character traits have been big for me, but I honestly didn't know any of that stuff until I came to Tom James. It's not a Tom James thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, I was gonna say, what is the character trait thing? Like, I'm interested in this. Like, what is that?
So, I mean, my first one. So I just like I say like faith, man of God, be a man of God, and have faith in my plan, and then like being proactive, and then have a statement that I read out going with being proactive, being reliable, being understanding, being unconditional, um, just a long list. I mean, there's like 12 of them. I usually just read them off, and then I kind of get to the point where I've just kind of looked down at the word, and I'm able to rattle off the affirmation or the character trait that comes after that. So it's taken a long time to get there, but I'll be just driving in between appointments, and I'm in my own head, and I'll just pull those out and just start reading them, because that's I came out with all of those when I was in a really good place mentally. So I always have to go back to those, because when you're not in a good place, you have to remind yourself when you were in a good place.
It's like such a feeling thing too. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a lot of the same internal, and I think a lot of people do. I think almost everyone probably has that same like internal negative dialogue sometimes. Like, you wake up and your day starts off crazy, or you have two bad sales things back to back, and then it's like you almost have to like breathe and let it go. And like, I always think of like a whiteboard, like just erasing the whiteboard. Like, that's my little way to refresh. But you have to be like, you're a badass bitch. Like, it's part of my language, but like, you got this. Like, it's almost like you have to feel that. Like, you have to like take that in, because like the truth is the truth. And then it's like sometimes we just get so clouded in our heads because we're the hardest people. Like, the war isn't out there, it's inside of our minds. Like, our minds are so busy and active, and they're so programmed with like survival instinct, that I feel like sometimes it's like we just got to get a hold of that and like shake it and be like, listen, like, life is so beautiful, it's so expansive, like there's so much that we can do in this lifetime when we get on top of that mental, the mental battle in our mind. And you're a man of faith, the Bible talks so much about, the war within, like that, the mindset, and, the whole like evil versus good. It starts within us. It's kind of like, how are you speaking to yourself? The words that you talk over yourself and over others are such a huge impact. And, I read the Bible like twice last year. And there was something that jumped out to me where it was talking about like the worst thing you can do, and it basically was corrupting the soul, like making someone feel like like breaking someone's soul down is like one of the worst things you can do, because it's like that person, it can ruin their entire life, like being super mean to someone or something like that. Like, if we're just uplifting, encouraging, and inspiring and helping others, like life turns around. It becomes something really beautiful. So, do you have any like favorite Bible quotes, or do you have anything that you want to kind of like talk about in terms of that? Because I think that that's kind of something that you embody very well.
Yeah, my life verse is Ephesians 3:20. So pretty much like, um, God will give you more than you ever ask or imagine at the end of the day. So it's abundance. And that's why I think so big on wanting to become a billionaire someday, is because of the abundance that God has put in my life. So yeah, I really focus on that verse a lot. And that's just one that I honestly I want to get it tatted on me, Ephesians 3:20, because it's just like something I'm always looking at. And then my girlfriend got me this bracelet the other day for my birthday, and it's something I've been looking at a lot more as well. And it's I know the plans I have for you, Jeremiah 29:11. So I just know God's plan is greater than my plan at the end of the day.
So we'll kind of like wrap up with this, because I know everyone's curious about this. Is what is like the biggest fashion mistake? Like, what do you feel? It's all subjective. So, like, what do you feel like the biggest like fashion, like, oh no, she did not, or oh no, he did not is?
So the biggest thing for me, I would say, is because I'm like very OCD about things, and I like matching stuff a lot. If someone doesn't match their belt with their shoes or vice versa, that's just a no-no right there. You can't put a black belt on with brown shoes. You can't and the tone of the browns have to be the same tone as well. If you wear a light color brown like a walnut or a light tan or something like that with a mahogany or a chili or a brown, it's just going to throw off the whole outfit. People are going to look, that's like the first thing that people look at is your shoes and like your belt for some reason. And so it's like first appearance is everything. And so that's probably the biggest no-no that I see all the time. Like when I ask clients, I was like, do you have a matching belt that goes with these shoes? And they're like, no. I was like, okay, we're getting you one because you're not going to be walking around. You're my walking billboard. You're not going to be walking around with a black belt and brown shoes on.
One thing that I noticed about you was when you came over, you had on different patterns that I loved it. Like they went together so well, but they were two different patterns. And I'm like, wow, that is like sharp. Like you have a very keen eye for like what goes together. So I totally could see you being very like OCD about people. Like, and that's one thing that really bugs me too, is the different tones. Like if you're wearing a gray brown and a warm brown together, like same thing with like, I used to be a makeup artist. So when people would wear like the eyeshadow and it would be warm tones and then they wear like a cool tone lip, I'm like, that looks weird. Like we gotta go back to the drawing board and kind of fix this because you know, you just don't want to look like a hot mess in public. So like with that, do you have any like inspo for us as far as like breaking out of your comfort zones as far as clothing goes? Like what's a good way to ease into like wearing patterns? Because like for someone like myself who wears black all the time or whatever, workout clothes, I live in them. What's a good way to like break into wearing something maybe that you don't normally wear every day?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I kind of get asked that quite often. So the role of like matching patterns together, the patterns just have to be of different sizes. So you can wear like a smaller plaid with a larger plaid. You can wear a striped shirt with a plaid jacket or a window pane jacket, or wear like a paisley tie with a striped shirt and then a plaid jacket or a window pane jacket. So I would say like that was a rule that I thought always growing up. Like you can't do plaids with the plaid, you can't do stripes with the plaids. Like it's actually a really, really good look, especially if like you know how to put it to really well together. And I really try to do that for my clients where they don't even have to think about it. It's like, all right, all this stuff goes together. Like you could throw on any of this and it's all gonna look good. So like
Mark
I
was
try
so
to
impressed. He was like, oh my gosh, he like wore the two because he thought that you couldn't, I thought you couldn't wear two different patterns either. But you like when you came over, you just looked so sharp. And he was like, oh my gosh, he like, you know, pulls that off really, really well. I wonder if I could do that. And I'm like, you know, it looks great on you. So that's like really great advice. Like most people don't know that either, that you can mix patterns as long as it's a certain way, there's a certain like tact to it.
correct. Yeah. Like you could wear a striped shirt with a striped suit. They just have to be of different widths of the stripes. They just can't be the same widths or the same sizes on the stripes or the plaid. So that's something I like having fun with. I do it all the time. And people's like, oh, I wouldn't wear that, but it looks good on you.
And you're like, well, it can look good on you too. Let me just
Yeah,
take your
exactly.
measurements. So where can people find you? Obviously, like I adore you. I think you're so awesome. And I love like seriously, Mark looks amazing since you've, you know, gotten your paws on him. So like where can people find you? Like what does that process look like for
Yeah. So yeah, I mean I have a personal like Facebook page, so you can find me on Facebook. On my LinkedIn, Jonathan O Toole. So I'm on LinkedIn quite often. And then I have my personal Instagram page, JOToole_4. And then I have Central Florida Clothier as my page for my clothing account. So honestly, on my two Instagrams and my LinkedIn, I'll probably post the most on those. I'm trying to get a little bit more active on it. That's something that just like that's a self-limiting belief. I honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I was always just scared to post things because I was afraid what people thought of me. So it's like I just didn't post stuff on social media, but I'm starting to get back into it a little bit more, little by little. So yeah, on my Instagram page, on my personal, I post a lot of like inspirational stuff, a lot of things on my stories, like thinking bigger and stuff like that. And then my clothing page, I'm getting back on it a little bit. My girlfriend's helping me with that because she's really good on the social media side.
I feel like girls usually are, you know, that's just it's our gift to the world.
For sure.
I would love to see on your social media inspiration and like morning routine stuff on your personal page or whatever you want to do. I think that'd be such a great idea because I know so many people who like are going to listen to this are so interested in things like that, you know, like it'd be cool to see you do that. Like I do a little bit of that on my stories too, just because, you know, sometimes it's cool to post things like that. You just get into the habit of it, but I think it'd be cool to see things like some behind the scenes, you know, and also more of your dog because the dog's really cute.
Yeah, yeah, he's a cute pup. He's honestly changed my life for the better. He's a big why behind a lot of things for me too. I don't have kids yet, but once you bring like another life into the picture, and it's bigger than yourself, man, you'll work your butt off to make them have a good life. So that's what I really try to do for my puppy, and he's definitely worth it.
Dogs are kids. I always say that to people. I'm like, you know what? Louie and Coco are my little rugrats. You know, they might not be real kids, but you know, you treat them kind of the same way.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much for being on. I loved having you here. Hopefully everyone locates you online and starts to follow your great content. And maybe we'll have to have you back again.
Definitely. Yeah, I would love to join again.
Thank you.